The year was 1988. Gary and Cathy Schafer had worked side by side the previous 2 decades building a registered Angus cattle farm, and life was good.
Until tragedy struck and Cathy faced a very uncertain future on the farm. Our Lance Schwartz has the story.
The look on little Cathy LaRue's face says it all as she showed her award-winning 4-H heifer in 1960.
It's always been my thing. Any kind of animal that I could get a hold of, that's what I was going to do.
Cathy had some big goals in mind when she married Gary Schafer.
I told Daddy, I said, well, my dreams is that someday I'm going to have one of the best Angus herds around.
Cathy's dream came true, but in a flash, that dream would be interrupted by a nightmare in 1988.
He hit the bridge on Highway 15 and the pickup spun around in several circles, and he got throughout, and the pickup landed on top of him.
Cathy had some big decisions to make after her 40-year-old husband had passed away.
His folks were here, and Daddy came up to me and he said, well, he says, you can't give this up. And I said, I never will.
Cathy didn't know just exactly how she would continue.
But I just knew I was born and raised on a farm. I knew I had 2 girls that could help me, and I knew I could make it.
Come on, kids.
There were those around Dakin who had major doubts as to whether or not a woman could run a farm by herself.
I guess I really never looked at what I did as a man's job because I worked right alongside Gary.
Today, this 68-year-old cattle producer is celebrating a milestone. Cathy and Gary were married in 1968, and they started their Angus herd that very same year. 5 decades later and a lot of hard work, Cathy is celebrating her 50th year in the cattle business this spring.
She was an inspiration. It just taught us to be independent women, that we can do whatever, you can do whatever you want if you set your mind to it.
Shelley and her sister Nikki learned a lot about life from watching their mom bravely continue on after they got married and moved away from home.
She's an amazing woman. She had to deal with more than most people do at a pretty young age. And to be able to come through that and, meet her goals and probably succeed from even that, and raise Shelley and I and all her little babies. She's done good. She's done real good.
Never underestimate the power of a determined woman.
So I truly believe that behind all of this, it was meant to be, and that this was God's plan for us. He knew I was going to need my kids to make it through.
Near Dakin with Cathy and her kids, I'm Lance Schwartz, 1011 Now.
And Cathy will be the first to admit that she's had a lot of assistance over the past 30 years. She often gets a helping hand from her second husband, Alvin, who spends most of his time driving a truck. And Cathy's friendly neighbors have also been very important in seeing Cathy's dream live on in Jefferson County. Still